lying. For when one desires something he strives for it, and when one fears something he strives to keep it away from himself. 42. Imam Ali explains the above tradition as follows. If one sincerely desires the pleasure of Allah, one must strive for it, and one of the ways of doing so is by refraining from lies. Falsehood is a forbidden act causing extreme displeasure of Allah. In the same way, if one really fears divine retribution, one must keep aloof from sins, for sins incur punishment. If a person merely claims that he hopes for divine rewards and fears divine punishment, but does not perform good deeds nor refrain from sins, he is a liar. The following saying of Amir al-Mu'minin Ali is recorded in Najul Balagha. One who thinks that he hopes in divine rewards but his actions do not express it, then by Allah, he is a liar. For when he hopes for something it becomes apparent from his actions. But if he hopes in Allah and his actions do not show it. In the same way, when one is afraid of something, his actions express this fear and he flees from that thing. Then after claiming to be fearful of divine punishment, why does he not flee from sins? Thus if a person who claims to be fearful of Allah and hopeful of divine rewards but whose actions do not confirm his claim, is considered a liar. In the same way, a person who claims to have the traits of patience, thankfulness, contentment and resignation etc. which are not shown in his behavior is also a liar. Your speech must conform to your thoughts. Hazrat Imam Jafar al-Sadiq says, whenever you say, Allahu Akbar, Allah is the greatest, you must consider everything between the earth and the sky to be lesser than Allah. Because when Allah sees that a person say Allahu Akbar only superficially, he says, O liar! You try to be smart with me. By my might and honor I shall deprive you of my remembrance. Single quote. It is regretful that people verbally say, Allahu Akbar, but their actions belie their words. For if they are told to do something for the sake of Allah or to refrain from something for the sake of Allah they do not pay any heed, but if a monetary fine is due for any disobedience, they are sure to respond. Thus money has importance for them than Allah's pleasure or displeasure. There are people who perform particular actions, or restrain from them only due to fear of harm by fellow humans. If they are told to do so only due to the fear of Allah's they will not be impressed. A show of submission. A person who says to Allah's the only do we worship and the only we ask for help, but his actions are such that day and night he is involved in the acquisition of wealth and is preoccupied in the satisfaction of carnal desires. Can we consider this man to be truthful? Does this man really worship Allah's In the same way, many a man puts his trust and faith in the apparent agencies through which he gets his profit and gain. He regards these as the deciding authorities and seeks their help, overlooks the fact that these means themselves are through Allah's grace. Can such a person be truthful when he says the only do we worship and the only we ask for help? Falsehood in supplications. Oftentimes people supplicate with the following words, I am pleased with my Lord and cherisher, he the sole cherisher of all the creatures. I am satisfied with him. But if the situation changes and these people are faced with distressing circumstances, they do not hesitate to complain about what Allah has decreed for them. In such a case the above-mentioned supplication amounts to lying. Confession of belief in the Imams. The supplication, I am pleased that Muhammad is my prophet, and Quran is my book and Ali is my Imam, and all of them are for my guidance, will also be a lie when uttered by a person who does not practice the tenets of Islam as explained by al-Bayt, and behaves according to his own whims and fancy. Do you speak the truth? A man prays, O Allah when I look at my sins, I weep, and when I see your mercy and forgiveness I become hopeful and happy in anticipation that you will forgive me. But when faced with temptations, he makes no serious effort to restrain himself and commits sinful acts without any qualms. The falsehood of such a person is clear. In the same way, if a person says, I weep due to the fear of the agony of death, due to the fear of questioning of the grave, due to the fear of Qiyamah, while in reality he is not fearful of any of these, his Falsehood is obvious. It could be this very kind of falsehood that is referred to in Dua Abu Hamza. Thumali of Imam Zain Abidin, A. O Allah, maybe you have found me in the position of a liar, and for this you have taken away your mercy from me, left me on my own condition. Lying to the Imams, A. An example of lying to the Imams, A, is that of a person who recites the Ziyarat and says, O Imams, I accept your sayings and act upon your commands and obey you, but who does not do so in reality. In fact, he obeys his own desires. Such a person is a hypocrite. He is lying to the Imams, A. Another example of such a falsehood is when he says in Ziyarat, we make peace with those who are at peace with you and we make war with those who are at war with you. Even though he verbally claims this, in actual practice he is friendly with the enemies of Islam. Also, he is inimical to the believers. He also claims, I keep aloof from your opponents, but does not act upon it. Isn't such a person lying to the Imams, A? Then how should we pray? A question arises here that if by reciting a dua or ziyarat, if one is bound to utter lies, then how should one pray? Although a detailed reply to this is beyond the scope of this book, we can say in brief that the manner of praying denounced by us is when the supplicant invokes Allah SWT, the Holy Prophet S and the Imam, A, but he takes his supplication lightly and makes no sincere effort to better himself. However, a believer should not feel that since it is not possible to avoid falsehood in prayers, it is better not to pray. This is despair of Allah SWT's mercy and a satanic instigation to keep the believer away from the divine rewards. What one should do is to pray sincerely and to achieve perfection in a gradual manner, and Allah SWT will surely help such a person in achieving this ultimate aim. A person either understands the meanings of du'as and Quranic verses as those quoted above or not. Even if one recites them without following the actual meaning, the du'as and Quranic verses will illuminate his heart by their light. He will also be eligible for the divine rewards. Every person has a different position. With respect to knowledge and piety, our Mazuman occupy the highest position. Amongst the believers there is a wide spectrum of people capable of different levels of understanding and piety, but none can reach the stage of Mazuman, A. All believers succumb to their desires and selfish motives to a greater or lesser extent. Consequently they fall prey to sins and disobey Allah. SWT. This is inevitable. This situation is aptly described in the following words of Dua Abu Hamza Thumali.